Hi, Matt Bisogno here again, and welcome to another edition of Gold Nuggets. In this week's edition, I thought we'd follow on from the great work that Dave Renham's been doing around draw biases, and specifically this week's article that he produced around negative draw biases. And what we're essentially doing is we're looking for a horse that's run well without winning against a bias on the other side. So for example, if the first three home were drawn 18, 19 and 20 and the horse drawn 3 finished second or third in amongst those, we might assume that there was a draw bias at play and that the horse drawn 3 had done exceptionally well to get to that position. Now these are not always lost on the public, but they sometimes are, and the best cases of all tend to be the ones where next time out they've run not so well, and then on their second start after the good draw they're more of a price, because the market tends to quickly lapse out of favour with a horse if it doesn't do what it's expected to do first time of asking. So anyway, enough with the fluff. Let's crack on and see what we can see. Okie dokie. So this is the article that I was talking about, Draw Bias 2022, Part 4. It's actually Part 5 because Part 3 was an A and B-er. And this image here shows a race from Ascot, from Royal Ascot in fact, of 2020, behind closed doors, hence the empty stands. And what we can see is, in fact, why don't I click on that to make it more obvious. On the right hand side here we can see the jam stick, that's the finish line, and here we can see the horses who had either a draw or pace advantage. It doesn't really matter which. They had a strong advantage on that side, the stand side, over these guys on the what would normally be the far side, the in this image the near side. So this is Maydani, who was a horse exemplified in Dave's article, who went on to do good things post Royal Ascot. And in this video what I thought I would do is I'd build on the work that Dave's done in this excellent article. If you haven't read it, you should read it. I'll link to it underneath this video. And I basically wanted to show you how to use Query Tool to do your own research along these lines. So this is the Maydani race here, and you can see that all those far side horses, or stand side as it was, 18, 17, 21, 19, 12, who was raced near side, and that was, they all raced near side, near side, near side, and then we get down to 14 as well, and then we get down to Maydani, raced far side and was first of 9 in that group. And incidentally, a couple of others that might be worth following. You can see the ones from the far side who were close up had been profitable to follow since. So it's not always just the first one from the unfavourable draws. Obviously you have to, as Dave suggests, you have to consider distance beaten, and you know, whether there was a clump of the unfavoured stalls together, or whether they're still done better than most of their peer group on the one side, on the wrong side, if that makes sense. It will make sense shortly when I exemplify it. So let's crack on and do that. And I want to do two things. The first thing I want to do is I want to use a bit of history just to basically to test out the theory. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to use Ascot because Ascot has this great straight track from 5 furlongs up to a mile. They do race on the round on the mile as well, but if we use a big enough field size we'll probably only get the straight track races. So I'm going to go over to Query Tool, and I've already added a few filters here. So what I've done is I've put just the last year Ascot from 6 furlongs to a mile, 16 plus runners. I actually want to add in a handicap filter there as well. So let's add that. And I think what I might do, actually, no, that's fine. Let's go with that. So we can see in the last year at Ascot there have been 13 races, or 13 winners. There might have been a dead heat, but I doubt it. And if we go to the qualifiers tab, we can sort by the winners. So if I sort by the position column, and I might have to do it twice, as in this case, I've got the winners here. So essentially what I'm now going to do is I'm going to click on the 13 winners to see if there was any draw bias in play. So let's start with this Dania race here, and here's the result, and we can see that well, basically there was a draw bias in play and the winner overcame it, and so too did the fifth horse. You can see here that there were 19 runners and the draw was 4, 15, 17, 21, 2, 19, 20, 12, 16. So basically the draws 2 and 4 did very well when 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the first 8 home came from the top half of the draw. And we can see here that if we look over on the right hand side, we've got these RWP columns. They stand for runs, subsequent wins and subsequent places. And we've also got a win and each way profit and loss columns as well. So we can see that Dania has run once since, and if I click on that, it tells me that he ran, he or she, I think the Park Stakes is a fillies race, is it? No, definitely not. Apologies for my ignorance there. In any case, ran in a very different kind of race, six runner Group 2, having run in this 19 runner Class 2 Heritage Handicap. Didn't work out on that occasion, but Dania would definitely not be one on which to give up. The other one that ran from the wrong side, if you like, looking at the way these numbers are balanced, was Aldari, trained by Willie Haggis, and we can see that on his next start at York, he ran, well, pretty well. He was only beaten 3.5 lengths, but that was only good enough for 7th place. However, he came out again in early October in a course and distance race. So Ascot 7 furlongs again. This is Ascot 7 furlongs. And he won as a 130 favourite, a bit skinny in a 16 runner race. Came out again on Champions Day. This is the handicap that closes the card on Champions Day, and won again, this time in a field of 20. Still a short price, 7-2, but he won by daylight, and paid 7-2 that day. And he's come out the other day, earlier this month, in the Spring Trophy at Haydock, which was a listed race, and won that readily at 2-5. So this horse was definitely on the upgrade, and advertised that fact with a very strong run from a poor draw in the International Stakes, which is one of the premier handicaps of the season. So that was the first race of interest. Let's look at one from last year, so we've got a little bit of subsequent form to go at. We'll try this. This looks like a Royal Ascot. Is it a straight mile? Is it Sandringham? No, Kensington Palace. I think that was a straight mile race. Actually, I'm not sure that it was. Let's go with one where I am sure that it was. We could try the Royal Hunt Cup, won by Marco Chiani, Geegeez jockey, and he actually he did an absolute solo on the far side to win this by nearly 5 lengths. Now, of course, you may or may not know that Real World has subsequently become a winner at much higher grade. Where is he? Down here. You can see that he won Group 3 at York, and then a Group 2 at Longchamp, and another Group 2 in Meydan earlier this season, and then was second in the Lockinge Group 1 behind the machine that is Baid. So if you took Baid out of that, he's a Group 1 winner, and of course again he's advertised that in an Ascot handicap, winning on ostensibly on the wrong side. And you can see this again, it's very similar actually to the previous race that I exemplified. The horses, so this is a 30 runner race, so basically anything above, I mean we could look at the actual draws. So this 12 is probably was 10th of 20, so he actually raced with all the near side horses. So basically you've got this horse on the far side that's won by 5 lengths from stall 4, and then you've got 27, 30, 33, 22, 25, 26, 23, 28, 21, 12 that came near side, 32, 29, 20 and 18. I mean this is the ultimate one-sided race in terms of draw advantage, and the winner hasn't just won, he's turned this 30 runner race into a 5-length procession. And again, you know, obviously we know what he's done since. He's a proper Group 1 horse, and he was running. So you talk about a Group 1 horse, sorry, a group horse in a handicap. This was a Group 1 horse in a handicap. And, you know, really rather remarkable. The other one to mention, of course, is the horse that started from stall 2, and was 2nd of 10 in the group behind Real World. Quite a way behind. In fact, 5, 6.5, 7.5 lengths behind this Group 1 winner. Now, Beat Le Bon has run only once since when last at Newmarket. I'm not sure what happened there. Presume that run was too bad to be true, and the fact that we haven't seen the horse for nearly a year, assuming it hasn't been sold and gone overseas, might mean that something was physically amiss that day. Hopefully he's okay and we'll see him again soon. But again, he's only had the one go since this negative draw performance, and as such he ought not to be written off, as I say, assuming he's still fit and well and racing in the UK. So that's history. Now you can do that for, you know, any track where they race on the straight over a reasonable distance, or as Dave has mentioned in this article with the little table down here, these are his top 10 and some near misses draw biases. So you can use these as well to look for horses that have run very, very well against a negative draw bias. But what I wanted to do, this is all, you know, all well and good, but it's somewhat historical. What I wanted to do was I wanted to bring this into the now. So I'm going to muck about with my filters here. I need to get rid of Ascot. I'll probably keep that 6 to a mile handicap, and I'll change the runners to 14, I think, 14 plus runners. And I'm going to change the date range just to be the last 2 months. I'll take today out. So the 17th of March to the 16th of May. Click the old generate report button and see what we get. So we've got 79 races in the sample. You'll be delighted to learn that I'm not going to cover all 79. But what I want to do is I want to show you a few things. So I mean, basically the first thing is that not all 79 will be relevant, because they won't necessarily, some of them, in fact many of them, will be on turning tracks, so there won't necessarily be a draw bias. So let's have a look at what we've got. Again, I'm going to go to the qualifiers tab. Again, I'm going to sort by position to get my winners first. And these are actually, looks like they're in date order. I want flat turf only, in fact. No, let's leave it, it's fine. So if you wanted to go to the most recent races, as you can see, we've got Miss Britain here, who won 2 days ago as I'm recording this, on the 15th at Ripon. So why don't we have a look at that race first and work back from there. So this was a fairly low grade affair, 0 to 65 3-year-old handicap, 14 runners, and we can see that the first 3 home, in fact the first 6 home, were drawn 2, 3, 4, 12, 8, 1. So probably advantageous to be drawn low. El Dayar here was drawn 12, which was the first of the high numbers by sort of a length or so from Politicism, drawn 10, and then another length to Halton Ranger, and the rest of the high draws sort of out the back here. So El Dayar has ostensibly run pretty well. Now, one of the things that I'm always a trap that I often fall into, and I'm trying to improve, is getting overexcited about horses that have run 1,000 times and are probably unlikely to replicate what they just did. So I'm pleased to see that El Dayar, going into this race, had only 4 runs, and this was only his or her second run in a handicap. So we can see that he had 3 spins at Newcastle on the straight track there. Actually ran very well at Thirsk, so although he was 6th, having been held up, he's only beaten a length and a half. Might have been favoured by a draw bias there, because he was drawn 16. Definitely wasn't favoured here, drawn high. And El Dayar would be, because he's very lightly raced, he is entitled to, even though he dropped £1 for this run, and probably would may drop another £1. He's kind of entitled to improve for the experience, because he hasn't had many goes. So El Dayar is the sort of horse that might be of mild interest. I wouldn't be going massively overboard on him, but he's only had a few goes. He's got some upside there. He's run pretty well in the circumstances, and as you can see in the in-running comment, the last part of the comment there is first of 9 in the group. Ran on a lead group inside final furlong, and you can also see that he kind of muffed the start a little bit. So there's quite a few positives for El Dayar for next time. And again, as I've said already, if he doesn't get it done straight away, he's probably worth persevering with, perhaps once more. But again, those kind of things are up to you. So El Dayar is one to be interested in. What are we going to do with that? Well, if we click this little star next to El Dayar's name here, I'm going to get invited to add El Dayar to my favourites, which actually is my tracker. Probably need to change that comment, and I'm going to click OK, and now you'll see that star's gone gold. And if I go to my tracker, top secret list of horses here, not really, you can see that El Dayar is here, and I'm going to add a note. So I'm going to say 15th of May 22, ran well from poor draw. I could have just written negative draw bias, follow for 2 or 3 runs, but I'm going to put a bit more in here. Ran well from poor draw, having blown the start. Worth lightly raced, worth persevering with in the short term. And then update, and that's updated. And now if I quickly refresh that page, we can see that my note for El Dayar is there. So he's one that I'll be interested in next time he runs, and you can see here there's some of my horses that I'm following for various reasons, so they've all got comments against them. I don't just chuck a horse in here without a comment. So and I don't back them all regardless of situation. So As an example, here's LJT, miles back, but ran on taking lead to be never near a fifth over 7 furlongs of Southwell by Rock of Jib out of a Manduro mare, crying out for further, according to me. Interesting in low grade over a mile next time. Looks like, given that there are odds for these other races, he may be, this race is tomorrow. Did he get declared? Let's have a look. Yeah, there he is, and it's a mile, so that'd be interesting. So I probably end up, well, I'll have a little look at the race, but it's a 0 to 55. It's not going to take a huge amount of winning, and he's had less goes than some of these. So that's how I use Tracker. I do suggest you you add notes and you use you back horses circumstantially, if you see what I mean. If the race where the horse appears fits with the profile of the previous race or the notes that you made. That's that then. So I'm not going to add any more. I'm not going to show you me adding any more notes to the tracker. One thing I will say actually is I've noticed that El Dayar must have been quietly fancied because he's got a couple of entries upcoming, so he may run at Haydock on the 21st. Is that Saturday? Yes. Or he may run at York on the 22nd. So I'll be looking out to see how he goes if he turns up in either of those. Okay, so that was actually slightly more interesting than I was expecting for our first go. Let's go back to Thirsk on the 14th and Frog and Toad, which won in a field of 15. Let's see what was behind Frog and Toad. So there's not. This is a 15 runner race. It looks like they kind of all came down the middle. 12, 6, 8, 9, 7, 3, 14. I'm not inspired by that. Now, if you want to spend more time on it, looking, if you click the comments button, you can have a look. Midfield doesn't really say where it raced on the track, so it's not terribly helpful. I mean, the next thing to do is to watch the race, but for the purposes of this video, that's definitely not something we're going to do. So let's go. We'll have a look at one in Ireland. Now, I know that this is a round course race at Leopardstown, because all of the races there are round course races. That doesn't mean there wasn't a draw bias. This was a mile race, and we can see that the winner was drawn 2, so on the inside, and raced handily. The second led from a wide draw, so had the advantage of a pace bias, essentially, by being at the front, overcoming that wide draw. The third was drawn 20 and raced towards the rear. The fourth was drawn 9 towards the rear, but yep, that one, I actually watched this race. That one came through near the inside. The fifth, Track the Leaders, was drawn 6, and then the rest are kind of further back. So personally, I'd be vaguely interested in Bobby K. Again, it's like, has the horse had a million goes, and is there any chance of him backing up this run? Can't even find him now. He was top weight, so that's something, in a 0 to 70 albeit, and he had run third the time before. That was from a wide draw as well, so he's lucked out with the draw a couple of times here. Bobby K might be an interesting horse in the near future, without being one to be kind of massively excited about. He's got no upcoming entries. I'm not going to add him to my tracker right now, but again, there are a few positives there. Although he's a 7-year-old, and again, he probably not about to leap forward massively, but he does seem to have been a better horse this year. You can expect that seasonal debut was needed for fitness. He's run really well these 2 times, probably run really well again next time. Let's do one more. I think you get the general gist of it now. Let's have a look at Nace, where there can be a bit of a bias. So this is a 6 furlong race, or 15 yards shy of a 6 furlong race. And this was a Premier handicap, so a good 6 furlong handicap. 15 runners. The first 7 home were drawn 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 12 and 13. So, and the 13 was, sorry, the horse number 16, who was drawn 13, Poppy Petal, was a 25 to 1 shot, first of 9 in the group. So, and the 5th horse, Speedicus, which I'd be less interested in, was second of 9 in the group, but was kind of just over half a length behind Poppy. So maybe they're both worth a look. Let's have a look at what they'd done prior to that run. Poppy Petal snuck in at the bottom here, off 78, and had not really achieved a huge amount. Now this was a 6 furlong race, and the horse had previously, looks like a trainer switch as well after the 3rd start. So had run well on its first 2 starts when leading, somewhere for someone in Britain, both times at Catterick, and then went to Nottingham, ran in a handicap, got whacked, after which it looks like was sold, went to Ireland. First time out in Ireland is run in a Premier handicap. I mean, that's kind of interesting. Maybe the horse was showing something. Ran over 7 furlongs there, and this was over 6. Previous form was over 5 and 6, so presumably didn't get home. Dropped to rear, no impression over a furlong out. May also have needed the run. Then Baileystown, right, said, okay, she's got lots of pace. Dropped it all the way back to 5 furlongs. Kept on, but held inside final furlong. So, yeah, didn't really get there. So she's gone from too far to too short. Then 6 furlongs in a good race, a 26 grand race, and it's run 3rd. Ran on well and went 3rd post, first of 9 in group. So Poppy Petal is another one who's only had a relatively few goes, and I presume she's gone up a pound or 2 for that Nace run. But she might be another one who, granted a slightly more favourable draw and a similar setup, could run well. And that's how you find them. So just to recap, what I've done here is I've gone into Query Tool. I've selected some filters, so in this case I've just chosen the last 2 months, so that, because basically I don't want a bunch of horses on my list that have already run since the race I'm looking at. So I'm looking at these very recent races, and trying to find a few interesting horses. I've put 6 furlongs to a mile. You could put 5 furlongs to 7 furlongs, or 5 furlongs only, or kind of whatever you like. If you specialise in sprint handicaps, you might do 5 to 6 furlong handicaps, and if you specialise in those in the UK, you might select the country UK as well. I've got 14 plus runners. You might want 12 plus or 16 plus. None of these are fixed parameters, and all of them are somewhat arbitrary. The key is to use a little bit of common sense when you're looking at a race result. There are loads of options to go at, so you haven't got to pick the ones that sort of nearly fit. Pick ones that look quite credible, like this Poppy Petal here. I didn't have time to look at Speedicus. That might be another one that's worth looking at, and again, I'm not going to do it here. You can see at least that horse had previously won, and was wearing cheek pieces for the first time. So again, you can go away and look at these for yourself, and this is how you do it. Once you find horses of interest, add them to your tracker. I strongly suggest you add notes to your tracker horses, and personally I don't back them blind. I wouldn't advocate that you back them blind, but that's personal choice again. So everything is personal choice. We're just providing a toolkit and some kind of overarching strategies to think about when looking for interesting horses for the next day or days. all of this, as I say, was germinated from Dave Renham's excellent Draw Bias series, and specifically the negative bias article that he put on site earlier this week. So I have a link to that beneath this video. If you haven't looked at that article, you really should. And if you end up having a play with this, you could probably do a race every 2 or 3 minutes. So if you had an hour, you could probably get 20 to 25 horses in your tracker, and if they're sprint handicappers, you're not going to be stuck for a bit of action in the coming weeks and months. Let me know how you get on. If it goes well for you, leave a comment in the coming days beneath the video or on Dave's article. We'd love to hear how you proceed. Okay, that's plenty for this week. Have a look at negative draw bias. Keep it in mind when you're looking at the form of races. You might be able to upgrade a horse who ostensibly has run only okay to the ran really well camp, and there might be a bit of value in doing that. All right, thank you very much for watching and listening. Matt Bisogno saying goodbye for now.